being in relationship with someone that plays the victim card is really difficult because they manipulate your emotions. And when there's emotions involved, it's kind of tricky, you know? And so they use a real or perceived trauma, or there's a social injustice, or they don't have any privilege. Those are all the buzzwords, right? And they use that as a way to avoid responsibility and to avoid doing something difficult, because they want the instant gratification that empathy provides. And that's where the emotional piece comes in, is they're playing on your emotions so that you'll be empathetic towards them, because that's what our society requires us to be. We got to be empathetic. We got to be understanding. And I, of all people, know that. I'm a therapist, but there's only so much utility in that, you know? And so but they want you to be empathetic to the point where now you're like, oh, wow, you really had a bad day, or you've had a hard life. So I'll do that for you. I'll do that report for you. Or you had a bad day, and so go ahead, you can vent on me and say all those mean things, and I won't push back, because, you know, you had a rough growing up. And in fact, we all have, right? Now, existentially speaking, we've all had it tough. We're all born into this world of chaos, and there's two paths you can take, right? And I'm still talking about the victim here, okay? There's two paths you can take. You can be born in this world of chaos and see it as, I can still have a meaningful life, and I can work hard to make the world a better place and do something hard. Or I see the world as unjust and unfair, and what's the point? But that life, in fact, is difficult, even though that life is one where you take the path of least resistance and you want that instant gratification, because that's easier in a way. All right, but it's still a difficult life. All right, and so that's like the existential point. Now, the reason we're all victims, me, you, everyone, is because we're all born into the world at different places. There's all these starting blocks, and some of them are at -50, and other people are born and they're at the 100-yard line, you know, and they're way ahead. All right. Now, that can be frustrating if you're racing your neighbor. If I look over and I see my neighbor and he's at 100 and I'm at -10, that's going to be frustrating. I may never catch up to that. But if I'm racing myself, now that's different. Here's the goal. I want to be better tomorrow than I was today. And that's the race you run. Okay, I was born at -10. And a year later, now I'm at 0. And a year later from there, now I'm at 100. There's growth. I'm moving forward. I'm a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. Now, the person that plays the victim card, they don't want to do that hard work, the thing that it takes for you to grow and to become a better person and to better the lives of those around you. All right? Because there's not a lot of satisfaction in that right away, perhaps. Okay, I think about someone that runs marathons. You might train for that for a year, and it's really difficult. And the big satisfaction is crossing that finish line. But there's a lot of other rewards that come with it, right? You're mentally strong, you're physically strong, and you set a goal and you've achieved it. But it might take you a year to get to the big goal of crossing that finish line. It takes so much effort to do that. Whereas I can sleep in every day, and that's my reward, and that feels good. And eat Captain Crunch on the couch and watch cartoons, you know? Well, which life is more difficult? You could make the argument that, well, the marathoner has a difficult life because they have to get up and train every day. But guess what? They have a reward for that. The things I just mentioned, they're healthy and they set a goal and they met that goal. Or the person that sits on the couch and eats Captain Crunch and watches cartoon, they get the satisfaction of not doing anything and they can just be relaxed and not a care in the world, but they have no reward. That is the extent of their reward. There's nothing enduring. And there's nothing meaningful about that. All right? And I think the person that plays the victim card does that is because the institutions and our society are preaching that message that society is unfair and life is unjust and you don't have any privilege and we buy into that message. When in fact, none of us have privilege to some degree or another, and all of us have injustice to us in some form or fashion, because we all start at different places. I don't have control over my color. I don't have control over who my parents are and how much money we had growing up and the schools that we went to. No one has control over that. And the social justice movement is trying to tell you otherwise. The better message is this: race yourself. Be better today than you were yesterday. Okay? So that's like the existential reason of why people play the victim card. That's why they do that. The path of least resistance, and they don't want to do the hard thing, and they don't want to make change in their life because they feel like, what's the point? Life is meaningless, not meaningful. So the way that you change that is this: they have to have a buy-in. And the way that you do that is you're going to have to work with them in a way where you set them up for something small victories, and you show them that, look, if you just put forth this little bit of effort, you get a lot of reward out of it. And you keep doing that with them. And showing that person that they actually can have purpose. That's the other existential piece of this, is people that play the victim card feel like they don't have any purpose. I'm in a job that's a dead-end job, so what's the point? Why should I work hard? Why should I work hard for a boss and he makes the money and I only make minimum wage? You know, I'm working for this multimillionaire, right? And I make $30,000 a year. This sucks. Yeah, it does suck. But if you worked hard and did the work that your boss did, you could have the same reward. But instead you want to complain, and you want someone to empathize with you, and you want that instant gratification, and you want to be absolved of responsibility. So that's what you do with someone that plays the victim card, is you're going to have to hold them responsible. Like I said, there's only so much utility and empathy. You can be like, okay, I understand that you had it rough. I understand there's trauma in your life. I understand that there's social injustice. But guess what? You have the ability to change. So choose your hard. You can do the hard thing and have a reward, or you can do the easy thing that has instant gratification and feels good, but there's nothing lasting and there's no reward. Ultimately, if you can find your purpose in your job, in your family, in your spiritual walk, with your health, all of these different areas of your life you can make change in. And when you make that change, now you're bettering the world around you. And that's the goal. I want to die and on my deathbed look back and know that I've changed someone's life, that I've helped somebody, that my family's better off, with me being in their life than if I was just lazy and did nothing and I was a burden to them. Because that's what people that play the victim card, they're in fact a burden, and it becomes tiresome, for the people you're in a relationship with. If you're that person, you could probably attest that you're losing friends and it's hard to keep relationships because people get exhausted of you. Okay. So start taking responsibility. Okay. Try to find your purpose. Figure out, why am I here? What am I good at? What can I do to help others? Make that sacrifice. Do the hard thing so that you can have the reward, because true joy comes from helping others, sowing into others. It truly is better to give than to receive. That's what that means. If I give into someone else's life and I sow into them and I take responsibility, and I even take the burden off of someone else that wasn't my responsibility, but I make it my own and help them, man, there's a lot of satisfaction in that. There's so much satisfaction in that. Okay. So if you're in a relationship with someone that plays the victim card, start holding them responsible. Try to find the buy-in, help them find their purpose. Okay. And if you're the person and you find yourself playing the victim card, we're all victims. Race yourself, not your neighbor. Find your purpose and start helping others.